I don't even know at this point, Curtis.
You got it, man. You got this.
I'm trying.
What are you drinking? What are you sipping on?
What am I drinking? Well, I can't tell you or else it's going to ruin the flying blind.
All right, well.
Don't trick me into a good time, Curtis. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 125 of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I am your host, Perry. I am so happy to welcome back one of the main co-hosts of the show, Curtis, who is recording this from a safe, socially distant location while we are still enjoying Easter Sunday. Curtis, hey, buddy.
What's up, man? How you been?
I am doing my best to survive and thrive. I actually have a plate of some Easter food next to me that my family just delivered. So I'm going to be chomping on that just throughout this this recording session, and I'll try to keep it to a minimum in terms of what you might hear. But I'm pretty excited for these au gratin potatoes.
Yeah, that's great, man.
I'm staring at.
I feel like that's how a lot of people's Easters have been going, or people bringing over food and having food just 6 feet apart. I've been having some bourbon 6 feet apart, though, so that's good.
Have you now? In what regard?
Just me and my roommate, pretty much.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
But I've been having some of that Infinity Bear bottle that I had.
Yes.
Well, I really haven't explored a ton outside of what I've been drinking lately, though. It's been a lot of the same stuff, so I won't bore anyone with the with the same bottle that I've been drinking on.
Well, I mean, we can bore people a little bit later, but we do start every episode out with Flying Blind. And I figured because you didn't know what we reviewed last week, Curtis, that you may as well try this sample and get a little taste of what it is that Swan and I reviewed, because your internet did, totally crap out while we were trying to make this episode last week.
One of my biggest pet peeves, man, is when internet doesn't work. It's 2020 and we can't get internet to work. I mean, what is going on?
It's obnoxious.
It really is. It's the worst thing. It crashed and then was out for like a couple hours. Then it comes back up for like 10 minutes and then it crashes. But I think we're at a good spot. I think we have been upgraded on our internet, so that's a positive thing. But I'm super excited about this sample because I haven't, like I said, I haven't tried anything new as of right now. So not knowing and going in blind, this is awesome.
So what do you think about it then?
I am pouring it right now, and I will let you know.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead a little bit too much.
All right.
I'm also way invested in this plate of food.
Yes,
next to me,
as you should be. It's got a very maple syrup kind of nose. A nice sugar maple syrup with like a I'm getting like pancakes a little bit. I haven't tasted yet, so I'm gonna try that now. Ooh, I'm getting some apple, a little bit of an apple taste. It kind of has a little bit of a funk, so I don't know if this is a dusty or not, but it has that kind of vibe a little bit.
I will say, for anybody who listened to last week's episode, this is not exactly what I was experiencing last week. I kind of am on board with that dusty note. I would say, but at the same time, it's not 100% in that camp.
Yeah, I was having a little bit of a trouble. Like it has sort of a dusty quality, but it kind of has more of, I don't know if it's dusty is the right word. It doesn't taste old. It just has that kind of vibe that you get when you drink it.
Mm-hmm. Mm. It's definitely hitting different for me than it was last week, but man, oh,
I
I
like
love
it.
that like richness on the end of the palate into the finish.
It's very. The more I'm going on, if you were gonna say you're getting more of that charred smoky
Sure,
note.
sure.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna go like. Also, sorry, I'm eating ham. But I was gonna go like kind of dark chocolate, kind of oaky notes
Yeah.
as well. Um, I like the savory aspect of it that you bring up, but um, I think it's a little bit bitter as well.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I enjoy this as a sipper bourbon, I would say.
Yeah. On the finish, I get the sweeter bitter note.
Yeah.
And it's very smooth. I don't know what the proof point. I don't know the proof point on this. But if it's higher, I kind of am a little surprised.
So any guesses as to what it might be then?
Not really. I mean, it's something that I don't know why I keep kind of going. It's like a way better version of the what's the Alabama
Oh,
whiskey?
the Clyde Mays.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm getting like a feel of a way better bourbon, like a way better version of that.
Well, to be quite honest with you, it is not the Clyde Mays whiskey.
I knew
Um,
that.
this is the Woodford Reserve Double Oaked.
Is it really?
It really is.
I get this now.
It does if you're tasting it blind. It does take a little bit to kind of accustom or acclimate your palate to it.
Yeah. Going straight off the bat on it being, I wouldn't have guessed it being Woodford double oaked right off the
Sure,
bat.
sure.
But the chocolate, the deep chocolate note that you were discussing and talking about, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I kind of am like, well, duh, Kurt, how did you not get that? The darker kind of part of the dark chocolate and oakiness kind of threw me off of it being like a dusty a little bit.
Right, right.
It's just off profile from any other bourbon because I was
Yeah.
kind of going in expecting, okay, this is a bourbon that isn't double oaked, or this is more traditional of what we usually go for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that threw me off.
And Swan and I were saying last week too that we would really like to do a blind flight of some double barreled whiskeys. And I don't quite know how this one would hold up
Mhm.
necessarily, but I am interested at the very least to, take a dive into into that realm.
Yeah, how many double oaked products are out there?
We really were only able to come up with like three. So Woodford double oaked, of course, the Jim Beam double oaked,
Yep.
and the Old Forester 1910.
Yeah. The Jim Beam double oak is pretty solid.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think another thing that, and I'm sure you guys probably have talked about it a little bit, is it kind of throws you off a little bit because it's hard to guess when you're doing it blind anyway.
Yeah.
Because how often are you having double oaked products?
Oh, not very often.
Yeah.
So I totally get what you're saying. I mean, it's not necessarily something that's at the forefront of your mind, especially when you're doing blind tastings. But um, I think there's something interesting to be explored uh, in that realm. So
I enjoy double oaked products.
I do too. I do too.
As few as I try it. I don't have it that often, but I definitely enjoy it. It's a good product. What did you guys guess?
Well, I mean, I knew what it was.
Yeah, what is Swan?
Swan was between it being a Texas whiskey or it being a Dickel bourbon.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
which I thought was really interesting. But in terms of it being a Texas whiskey, I kind of understand where he might be coming from because there's more oak that's present. Um, and Texas bourbons, Texas whiskeys tend to they might spend less time in the barrel, but they definitely are imparted with more of the oak notes because of the extreme heat that is present
Yeah.
in Texas. So I can see what where he was coming from in that instance. I knew what I was drinking, so I
Yeah.
couldn't.
You couldn't
I
specifically
couldn't go. Maybe this is an Elijah Craig barrel proof
say.
or
Yeah.
something. So
Okay. I wouldn't have given it that.
yeah, exactly. I mean, me neither. But my point still stands.
Yeah. It was solid.
Either way, though, I know that you have not had much recently that's been different. But what have you been drinking recently, Kurt?
Like I said, I've been sipping on that infinity bottle that has kind of Henry McKenna, Wild Turkey, Master's Keep,
Mm-hmm.
Knob Creek, and it's really solid. And the more I have it, the more it kind of opens up and has uh, it's evolved into as
Right.
as it's had time to kind of mingle together, it's
Mm-hmm.
gotten better. The finish for me, it kind of it's short but the palate is pretty phenomenal. So that's what I've been having. I also been having some margaritas. So I've been making my own margaritas, and that's not bourbon, but it's been good.
But it's been what you've been drinking recently.
Yeah, I mean it's literally what I've been drinking recently.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, I accidentally got a like the light margarita mix the
Oh
other day,
no, how's
and
that?
I haven't tried it because I'm a little bummed that I even accidentally bought it. So I'm gonna kind of let it sit. I don't really know what happened to the receipt um, that I got it with.
Yeah,
So I'm just gonna go back to Kroger and buy a regular one.
okay, that's
Because
probably fair.
yeah, I mean it was only $5. I mean it can't be
Yeah,
it
it's
can't
not
be
breaking the
impeding my
bank.
wallet too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But
What else
I
what have you been drinking?
I have been staying pretty standard, honestly, and I've gotten a little bit into the bottles that I've had in reserve, like my Elijah Craig barrel proofs, or certain store picks that I've really wanted to hold on to for a rainy day. But for the most part, I'm really hanging in the Turkey 101 camp, the Knob Creek single barrels. That it's just I want to deep dive into my cabinet, but at the same time, I want to reserve it for when everything blows over and we can, get together and have some good drinks
Yeah,
at that point.
more of a special time, a celebration of back to
Exactly. And
normalcy.
I'm kind of in the sustaining or maintaining mindset right now.
Yeah.
Like I'm not, I'm not trying to go crazy. I'm not, thinking, oh, I've got to have this or that. It's just kind of like, all right, now I understand what my daily drinker actually means.
Yes, exactly.
With that being said, I do hope that everybody is doing okay out there. If you are being directly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, our thoughts and prayers, of course, go out to you all. It is not a great time for anybody in the world, but um, we do hope that you all are getting through it the best of your abilities. And I hope that you guys can find some kind of solace in these weekly episodes that we are continuing to do, regardless of what is going on in the outside world. We are also launching this week a new series of the podcast. It is called the ISO Sessions. And I am basically just chatting with, recording with friends of the show and checking in with everybody and making sure that we're all staying relatively sane, I would say, during these wild, unprecedented times. But that's going to be every Friday for the next, I would say, foreseeable future. Um, but I think you guys are really going to enjoy some of these conversations that I've been able to have with guests of the show, whether they are old or new. You're going to enjoy it, and I hope that it gives you the opportunity to, not just once a week step back from what's going on and listen to this is my bourbon podcast, but now twice a week.
Yeah.
and and you get a little bit of solace at that point.
Exactly.
But
And you also get
um,
live streams, so that's nice.
yes, yeah, the live streams are still going on every Thursday night, 8:30 Eastern American time. YouTube.com/my bourbon podcast. I mean, there's still so much going on. And it's not just me, it is so many of our friends in the whiskey tube community and the podcast community. Um, everybody's still putting out weekly content. They're still, going live. They're still trying to just maintain normalcy. And we're all here, and we are trying to remain as present as possible. So
With
I
lots of
think
bourbon.
with very much bourbon.
Very much bourbon forward is what I'm getting.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And as we talk about going bourbon forward, we have to talk about what's been going on in the news. And understandably so, things are slowing down just a little bit in the news community for the whiskey industry. But there's still some kind of cool things that we get to talk about. The first one comes from the Bardstown Bourbon Company. They are currently looking for the world's top whiskey taster, which will be their basically who controls what the profile is going to be like for the Bardstown Bourbon Company moving forward, and they would also um, considering moving them into the competition aspect of the whiskey world. So I'm very interested in what what this would look like in the future.
Oh, this is awesome, to be honest. I mean, it seems pretty cool that they would come up with a competition like this, and it's open to all pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone can submit an application. They have like a video application, I think, right?
Yeah.
Or at least like give a prowess of like, you need to have a developed palate, your passion for whiskey and bourbon. But it seems really cool.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts?
Well, I think I may as well, submit, do it.
It would make sense, yeah.
I mean, I don't see any reason not to if it's just open to the public. You know,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think it's really really kind of cool to see them opening up to the public in much the same way that design competitions do or songwriting competitions do. And it's not in the same way that we talk a lot about graphic design competitions and how um, you're basically not getting paid to be creative. I think that this is you being able to put yourself forward in something that could be very, very beneficial without having to stretch the creative mind. Does that
Hmm.
make sense? What I'm saying? Like it seems like there's a better method for this than creating a movie poster or a logo for something that might just not get accepted. I think that this is very, very much in tune with those of us who are tasting whiskey anyway, or taking our own notes. Um, I don't think, I do not think by any stretch of the imagination that I would do well in this. But I kind of want to. I'm going to kind of throw my hat into the ring at the
Yeah,
very
I mean,
least.
I think it's a good benchmark for somebody that's sitting there going, "Hey, I listen and I listen to a lot of bourbon podcasts. I listen to a lot of the industry news, and I've been perfecting my palate and improving my palate for uh, however many years. I think that's
Hmm.
a good way to put your hat in the ring and see exactly where you kind of are, uh, at where your palate is, comparing to other people. I think it's a good benchmark to know where you sit as far as the overall consensus. I don't think that
Yeah.
this necessarily says like, oh, this person knows exactly what they're talking about, and this person doesn't know anything. You know,
Hmm.
because palates are totally different.
Yeah.
But I think it gives a good benchmark of that, and it also it offers. I'm reading here, and it says there's a chance to win $20,000. Uh,
Ain't so
plus,
bad.
yeah, that's not so bad. Plus a scholarship to Moonshine University's Executive Bourbon Steward Program. Um, I don't exactly know what that is, but it seems cool. And and then you have a contract position as a distillery ambassador. So that's pretty awesome as well.
Yeah.
And that's all coming from Bardstown Bourbon Company, which is an up and coming with their own product.
Yeah.
They've already
For
been
sure.
known to sourcing to other really good brands, and it's a great company to be in the know for.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that what we are seeing is the invitation to be involved in the bourbon community in a way that people didn't really think that they could have before now. I mean, being paid to taste whiskey on a professional level,
Yeah,
that's exciting. That is really, really entertaining just in the thought itself. But um, I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out. Um, like we said, it's open to everybody, so it's going to be really cool to see how people respond to it. Moving on, Beam Suntory India has donated $150,000 to hospitality workers during the COVID-19 pandemic. Um, for those of you who don't know, Beam Suntory owns Maker's Mark. They own Jim Beam. They own Nika as well.
hmm
So they are very well spread out. But what is really cool is just that they are taking this instance and they are responding in a way, much like those distilleries who are, creating hand sanitizer, or they are trying to raise money one way or another. I mean, this is just coming straight out of their pockets to help out the Restaurant Association of India. Um, in it's just incredible. It really, really is cool.
yeah, it's a good initiative. I mean, it's great that they're supporting all of those workers, and it seemed like that it was a pretty quick lockdown.
Hmm.
Based off of what I've seen in the news, is that it happened really quick.
Oh
So
yeah,
I wouldn't say unexpected, but it seemed like it happened very quick, and it's
rapidly. Yeah.
yeah, and it's going to affect quite a few businesses as it has everywhere within the world. But I think it's a uh, great gesture for sure.
I think that it might be distilling it down to too much, but it really does seem like the hospitality industry has been hit, if not the hardest, but at least really, really hard by this whole thing. I mean, nobody's coming and staying in hotels. Nobody's trying to go on uh, distillery tours. I mean, nobody's going to restaurants and ordering drinks from really dedicated bartenders. I mean, the hospitality industry at this point is like nothing. I mean, it's very, very minuscule at this point. So it's cool to see a company of this size donating a fairly significant amount of money to the relief efforts, even all the way over in India.
Yeah, I think that that's a great point on. I mean, it has affected hospitality significantly. It's something that has never been really happened before,
Hmm.
where we have had to close down and shut down everything pretty much, except for essential workers. You know,
Right.
restaurants and hospitality and hotels, they solely focus on people being able to travel outside and to be able to get into their venues and their businesses.
Yes.
So anything that helps is that's important is keeping those people on the payrolls to help those businesses keep working. So I think
Right.
it's a good you know initiative to have, and great for Jim Beam to be able to contribute to that.
So the other thing that has been really significant about the bourbon or the whiskey industry has been those distilleries who have decided to create hand sanitizer during these times, and it's been to support healthcare workers without trying to charge them anything. It's all been very upfront and free. And Jim Beam has now found a way to provide their own line of hand sanitizer to the medical professionals. Um, this has been really interesting to watch over the past week or so. Um, the it's so frustrating, but distilleries are not being supported in the way that they should, even though they are providing something that is so essential to the community, to the world right now, just in the form of hand sanitizer, just in the form of trying to make sure that people are healthy as they go into a very, very dangerous workplace. And the government is, and we're not trying to get too in the weeds, of course, of what is government oversight or whatever, but there has been this push recently for the government to tax distilleries who are still producing product, even if it is not whiskey. And this has moved into the hand sanitizer realm. It
Mhm.
is very, very strange to me, um, to see folks still wanting to make a dollar while the world is suffering. And again, I am really not trying to get political with this, but this is really, really sad to see that taxes are still so dominant during this time.
And so with that, how does that? Do you know how that works? As
Honestly,
far-
I don't know. I don't know the legality of it and everything.
I'm assuming that they're taxed based off of what they produce, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know what the I don't know what the legal definitions or the legal ramifications of it all are.
Yeah,
Um,
nonetheless, I'm sure it is probably pretty significant.
yeah, it's it just is bizarre, and I think that when you look at those who are trying to help, we shouldn't be criticizing them, and we should try to stand as strong with them as possible. And I think that, Jim Beam, who is the biggest producer of bourbon in the entire world, to be moving towards helping out the health industry, um, well done, good on you guys. Seriously,
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's great that everybody. It's been great to see everybody that is and companies that are going and uniting to help in the fight of all that of all this.
yeah, yeah, I agree.
It seems like there's a lot of companies that are really going forth uh, and coming up with their own programs to donate, to give back to their communities. It is something that's great to see. Um, you know, just based on a company standpoint and a state standpoint, I've seen so many. There's distilleries, there's breweries that are giving back. There's just, I mean, companies in general are giving back, and that's great to see. Would I like to see a little more from the federal government? Sure,
Yeah,
but it's
exactly.
been great to see the unity of what makes uh, everybody come together
Sure.
in times of need.
So we'll try to move into a little bit of lighter news, but Buffalo Trace has won a really big amount of awards at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition.
Hmm.
Um, First and foremost, the Eagle Rare 17-year-old from the Antique Collection earned double gold. The William LaRue Weller also earned double gold,
Yep.
as did the Thomas H. Handy. So that's 3 out of the 5 Antique Collection whiskeys
I think
that
they're doing well.
they're doing okay. Stag Junior as well, and the Elmer Cheeley single barrel. On down from there, the gold medals went to E.H. Taylor Jr. small batch and single barrel, Weller Special Reserve, and the Weller Full Proof. Silver went to Buffalo Trace, Eagle Rare Tenure, George T. Stagg, E.H. Taylor Bottled and Bond Straight Rye Whiskey, the Weller CYPB, and the Weller 12 year. And the bronze went to the Antique 107 Weller, the Wheatley Vodka, and the Buffalo Trace Cream Liqueur. So Buffalo Trace is doing okay for themselves
Yeah, they're
right
doing
now in
well.
terms of accolades.
And one thing that I have to point out, some of my favorites were the Thomas H. Handy,
Yes.
the American Rye Whiskey. When we tasted the Antique Collection, that one really stood out to me. It had a nice kind of minty spice note that was just I mean, very, very good. I really like that one. I think that made my top one of my top fives
Yeah,
of
I
the
can't I
year.
can't remember off the top of my head, but
Yeah,
it
I'm fairly
did
certain
it
it,
did
it
well.
made the top five. And then that Stag Junior, that was really, really good.
Last year's Stag Junior was it outperformed itself. I
Yeah.
feel like.
Hmm.
I mean, it just felt like it was above and beyond what
I'm
a
trying to,
Stag Junior normally is.
yeah, I'm trying to kind of pinpoint what was so good about this Stag Junior. What do you think on that?
Mm.
Obviously, we haven't had it in a while, but
Well, that is fair, but from what I remember, it was the depth of complexity, um, all the way through to the price point. I mean, it just seemed to present itself in a way that was similar to the Elijah Craig barrel proofs of the world.
I was just about
Like,
to say that.
like it just seemed to be in that same vein. And it's not that it was, tit for tat or anything, but Stag Jr. really showed up and showed out last year. So I understand at the very least a gold. I don't know the grading criteria for this San Francisco World Spirits competition, especially to qualify it for being double gold. But I mean, both of the batches from last year's Stag Juniors were spectacular.
Yeah, they outdid themselves this year or last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So it kind of goes without saying that that the Buffalo Trace is doing well in terms of the products that they are producing, but it is nice to have kind of that justification behind it, or that support to say, yeah, they're actually they're actually putting out really, really quality products at the moment.
Exactly. We done new.
Yeah, exactly. One more bit of news before we move into the TTB releases of the week. Chicken Cock is releasing a 2-year-old straight rye whiskey, and we're not going to talk about this too much on this week's episode because we are actually very thankful to welcome Greg Snyder, who is the master distiller of the Grain and Barrel Spirits distillery, who produces Chicken Cock, onto the show here next week. So we're going to be recording that interview with Greg coming up here in a couple of days, and I'm very much looking forward to chatting with him. Just a quote from the press release: made in partnership with the Bardstown Bourbon Company as part of its collaborative distilling program, the new straight rye whiskey was 100% distilled, aged, and bottled in the Bluegrass State. It's a beautifully balanced, non-chill filtered 95% rye whiskey, which features a caramel color with a hue of dark orange. The nose reveals a tremendous complexity of spices, including pepper and cinnamon, with a hint of dryness and slight overtones of citrus and oak. A creamy, almost buttery mouthfeel is complemented by vanilla and butterscotch, followed by a long, slow, peppery finish with a hint of sweet honey. At 90 proof, there is a slight welcome heat. Like the new Kentucky Straight Bourbon, the Kentucky Straight Rye is bottled in a pre-Prohibition era chicken cock replica apothecary style bottle. That was a hard last sentence to read in like a breath and a half. But
Yeah.
I am looking forward to trying this and to getting to chat with Greg about this product in general. I have really not had anything that has disappointed me from the chicken cock line. I don't know, Kurt, whether or not you have gotten to experience any of their products, but overall, it seems like it has been pretty consistent at the very least.
Yeah, I have, and it very much is consistent. It's very good. Yeah, I mean that's great that we get to have him on, and I'm very excited to hear what he says about the 2-year rye whiskey. Everything from Chicken Cock I've had is very, very solid.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll kind of leave it at that, and we'll pick up this conversation here next week. But we do have a couple of TTB releases that have come across the board this week.
Yeah.
This first one, we're really kind of surprised by it, but it is the Old Hickory Hermitage Gold Reserve. This is really a strange label to me. We'll get through a little bit of the weeds before we talk about what it is itself.
Yeah.
It claims that it is a whiskey. It is 10 years old. It's 128 proof, but the mash bill is 99% corn and 1% malted barley, which actually would qualify it to be a bourbon. So it's really strange that and it's an American whiskey too. I mean, it's not distilled or produced anywhere outside of the United States. It's actually produced in, well, it's distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, which makes it an MGP, an MGP whiskey, and it's bottled in Ohio. So I mean, it qualifies across the board basically for being a bourbon. But they didn't go with the bourbon label. I don't know if they're trying to, blend in other alcohol to, make it a whiskey or make it flavorful. But I don't know. I feel like as we move on and develop in the world of bourbon producers, whiskey producers, by establishing yourself as a bourbon brand, that seems like it would have been more beneficial to your product. I mean, what do you think, Kurt?
Yeah, I wonder that as well because I'm reading the label it and it says, just on the whole description of the old Hickory stamp collection, all the history and kind of story they build around. It says, let me see here, a secret distillery on the Hermitage grounds. Our Hermitage Reserve Rye is a tribute to the rich bourbon culture and its authentic American roots.
That and even then, that's really confusing.
Yeah, because they talk about a reserve rye.
Exactly.
And then they go to a bourbon, and then they are considering this just a whiskey.
So I want to point something out. This is now the second week in a row that we have looked at a TTB label that has claimed to be one thing in terms of its product name, but once it got into the description of it, kind of contradicts that. So last week was the 10 cup rye whiskey, which claimed to be a blend between a bourbon and a malt whiskey, a single malt whiskey. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it just was contradictory to what they were actually advertising it as. So as much as we should be trying to adhere to a state of conduct within distilleries themselves, it seems like the TTB is kind of fallen a little bit short in their regulatory abilities right now.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure because I mean they're talking about basically the description on this is just saying like its namesake, President Andrew Jackson, the Hermitage
Right.
stamp issued in 1956 as part of the Liberty Series, so on and so forth. His wife, Andrew Jackson, his wife, Rachel, frequently entertained guests at their home. It's rumored, and here's where you get more into the bourbon. It's rumored that a fire in the mid 1800s destroyed a secret distillery on the Hermitage grounds. And then it goes into the reserve rye and a tribute to the rich bourbon culture.
So none of it makes sense, especially considering they're talking about a 99% corn, 1% malted barley mash bill.
Yeah.
There's no rye in there.
No, there's not.
There is no rye in that mash bill. So
no, not at all.
I don't know what they're talking about, to be quite honest.
Yeah. I will say I'm interested in the age 10 years. I'm interested in the barrel proof.
Yeah, right. Me too.
All of that stuff sounds like really cool. I'm definitely interested.
I just don't know what's going to happen with it.
Yeah, I just don't know what the story that you're building around it.
It's very confusing. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
So,
also, do you get a vibe of a little Henry McKenna?
I do, between the age and the color of the label. I mean, it is very Henry McKenna-esque, especially the fact that they have a tack strip over the top of the cork.
Yeah.
What I am assuming is going to be a cork. But I don't know, man. I don't know what to expect from this bottle of whiskey at this point.
Nor do I.
But
I'm interested.
Yeah, we'll certainly find out, I'm sure. But this next product, I would say I'm pretty excited for, regardless of whether or not I am a super fan of the products that they put out. Um, but Brown Foreman is releasing a 150th anniversary 100 proof bourbon. This is really really cool. I am excited for this. Um, I have not really been. I would say that I have been moderately impressed with the Brown Foreman special releases that have come out. Um, in this case, I don't know if it's going to be of superb quality, but I like this. I like this. I think it's a really cool looking label too.
Yeah, I agree. Very minimal, very kind of regal
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah, and I want to know what the bottle itself is going to look like too.
Yeah, it's definitely a very special occasion 150th anniversary style type of bottle that you're getting.
And I'll be very honest with you, I cannot imagine that this bottle is going to go for much less than what, like $275, $300.
I would
I mean,
assume.
it's going to be pricey. It's going to be up there for folks. So, I mean, unless you have a true affinity for the Brown Foreman line of brands, this might be a pass for you in general. But
Yeah, it is
that
something
being
that
said,
you come across and you know which
yeah,
you won't
yeah.
probably. But
Exactly. But I am curious to find out what this bottle looks like as a whole, not just the label from the TTB website.
yeah, that's true.
So, with that in mind, we'll move on to the last of this week's TTB labels that have come across the table. Uh, and this one is, I don't know if, Kurt, you have ever even heard of this brand before, but this is the Peg Leg Porker Tennessee Straight Bourbon Whiskey, which is 15 years old and 90 proof. So Peg Leg Porker they're a barbecue restaurant in Nashville, right?
Yeah.
And they have been putting out an MGP bourbon over the past couple of years that people are either they're really interested in or they just don't really care for. And I'm curious to find out what a 15-year version of this is going to be like. I'm sure it's going to be good. I mean, I can't imagine that it's going to be bad, but at the same time, with a product that has been really hit or miss over the past few years, it's interesting to come out with a fairly premium brand to try to counteract those notions.
Yeah, I haven't had any experience with peg leg porker, um, or the Pitmaster Reserve.
Sure.
Um, I'm interested in the age of
Yeah,
course.
there really are not many 15-year bourbons on the market anymore.
No,
So, but I will say too that it's this is supposed to be, out of 2,500 bottles. So it's going to be fairly limited in its release. So, I mean, they might have some kind of belief behind what they're putting out. So it could be surprisingly good.
yeah, for sure. Uh, it's definitely interesting. What's your thoughts on where's this sourced? Do we know or?
Yeah, I said it was MGP earlier, but I that is my understanding. I mean, I could be slightly off. It could be sourced from somewhere else. But from what I can recall, it's an MGP bourbon.
Yeah, okay.
So, but to that point though, it's not on the label where it was actually distilled. All it says is that it was bottled in Nashville.
Yeah, that's what I was.
So
At first, I was going to see what your thoughts on Speakeasy Spirits was, and then realized, oh, it's just bottled there.
no idea what Speakeasy Spirits is like other than the Peg Leg Porker series.
Yeah,
So Who's to say, man? We'll find out one way or another. But that's been the news for the week. Kurt, I am really excited to get into this week's review with you, though.
Yeah, me too.
Are you all poured up and ready to go for it?
We're all poured up. We're all ready to go.
We're all raring and waiting. So
Let's do this thing.
let's do it. All right.
You want to
So
know?
as
Let me check my schedule real quick.
oh, you just got so much going on at the moment that you
Yeah,
can't
I'm really
even
busy.
fathom. Yeah, I figured. Yeah. So, as we have been doing over the past few weeks, we have been doing blind reviews for Curtis and Swan, and it's no different this week. I know what this pour is, um, but the other guys don't. So everything that they are experiencing is based solely off of first reaction, and then by the time that we get to the price point or the price section of the review, that's when I will actually reveal to them what this is. So with that in mind, we have a review system of nose, palate, finish, and price. Each category is out of 5, and then we total the score up for a score out of 20. So Curtis, what would you give? Well, you don't even have to give the nose a score at this point, but what do you think about the nose right now?
The nose for me is very fresh. And fresh,
Fresh to death.
yes, fresh is what I'm meaning more of like a bright, kind of citrusy, flowery note.
Mm,
Um, it has a little bit of, it does seem like it has a little bit of a nice proof point. I'm not sure exactly where that's at, but it has a very traditional, caramels, that sweet caramel, kind of sugary. Uh, I'm getting more of a flowery kind of orange peel note that we've talked
right.
about quite often. Um, that's kind of what I'm getting on the nose. What about you?
Yeah, I think that it is. It seems to be like slightly traditional. I think that it is present in terms of those notes, the caramel, the vanilla, the oak. Um, but there is definitely a floral note that is present and really trying to make itself accounted for as you're nosing this bourbon.
Yeah, and as we go forth, I definitely am getting. I took a sip of it, and it just amplifies that floral note onto the palate as well.
Sure, sure. I haven't gotten to the palate just yet, but I did pick up like a peppermint candy note on the nose as well. Um, so there is much to be discovered by the nose on this one at the very least.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of, and I think this is where the peppermint's coming from for you. I'm getting more of like a mint, like eucalyptus,
Mm, okay.
but not significantly at all. I don't want to get into it being like having like a rye feel because it's not.
Mm, that is tasty though.
Oh, it's very tasty.
Ooh.
It's very bright and happy and kind of perfect for like a spring weather kind of bourbon or whiskey that we're tasting.
Right, but
Uh,
it really seems to kind of ease into some of the darker notes as well.
mhm.
Um, I think that as the finish goes along, um, it starts to become a little bit more oak influenced, and I think
Yes,
it turns into um, not the same animal that it was from the outset, but
I think the finish is where that
yeah,
transition
for
happened.
sure, for sure.
I really enjoy this. This is nice, especially in. I'm looking out my window and it's pouring rain and just
Yeah,
kind of
it's
gloomy.
gross out right now.
Yeah. And this bourbon is kind of transporting me to a happy kind of warm weather Easter Sunday.
Yeah. Well, as I chomp on my Easter lamb,
Yes,
what
exactly.
what would you give the nose, buddy?
The nose, I think I'm gonna give it a 3.
Hmm.
Uh, and not to give too much away, but I think the palate is where this really kind of shine. The palate towards the finish is where this really kind of shines. For me, I think the nose is very inviting. It has more of this sweet, floral kind of note that we were talking about, and it really is inviting. I really want to just like if you were to just nose this, you would want to try this immediately. Um, I wouldn't want to take too much time, is what I'm saying. Like, oh, let's just go ahead and try this. So I'm giving a 3 on that point.
Yeah, I gave it a 3 as well. Um, I think that it is really well balanced. I don't think that it's necessarily the most traditional bourbon nose.
No,
I don't think, but I still think that it has a lot to be offered that would entice you to kind of keep going with it for sure. I gave the palate a 3.25.
okay. Why do you give it a 3.25 rather than a 3.5? Let's say.
I think that it has exactly what the nose is offering, um, with just a slight tinge of something extra. I don't think that it's really quite pushing it into that exceptional territory, um, but it's definitely a step up from the nose. And I'll talk about my finish score here in a minute. Um, but I think that while it is still enjoyable, I'm missing just a hair of what I want on the palate.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was thinking a 3.5, but you said you know, I wouldn't push it towards an exceptional, which I think we probably give a 3.5 to 4 for exceptional. Would you
Yeah,
agree?
exactly. Yeah.
I think I agree on a 3.25. Um, if this the palette does everything that you were saying, it amplifies what you get on the nose. There is more of a traditional note that you're missing a little bit on
Mhm.
the palette. So I totally agree with 3.25.
Now the finish though, it's so interesting for me because everything is just kind of stair stepping. Like the nose was one thing, the palate was one thing plus another, and then the finish was that thing plus another.
Yes.
And I gave the palate, or excuse me, the finish a 3.5. I think that's where things start to kind of really explode a little bit. Maybe not necessarily like being the most amazing, but it definitely becomes its own animal on the finish. So 3.5, I think that kind of pushes it slightly into the above average realm for me. But would you give the finish?
Perry, we're just copying each other, I think.
All right, so you also gave it a 3.5 then?
So I gave it a 3.5. I The only reason I was like, maybe I'll give a 3.25 is uh it's not the most exceptional finish I've had. With that being said, it's very good. It has
Yeah.
that long finish that you really want in a bourbon, and I've found that that's hard to find in some,
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
long finish, the one that just continues all the way down through the chest and has a warming effect and has kind of it comes like when you're breathing, it kind of comes back through the nose a little bit, like
Sure.
that warm sense.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. I got you.
so I'm at a 3.25. Um, we're not going to get into the 3.4 5s or three. We're not going to get to the fifths.
Yeah,
Uh,
we're really trying to stay, easy to do math realm
yeah,
of
exactly.
numbers. But
Uh,
do you want to know? Do you want to know the price before you know the product?
yes, I want to know the price before I know the product.
So this is about $30. I would say $30 is the bare minimum that you're going to be able to pick up this bottle for.
Okay, $30.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty good. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go with a 3.75.
Okay. I actually went with an average between my scores. I gave it a 3.25.
Oh, okay.
So
I think it's. I mean, very good. The price.
yeah.
It's the finish on this is something that's hard to find in a $30 bottle. I think. Um,
Well, this is definitely a remnant of the Henry McKenna era of bourbons, right?
okay.
So this survived through through that time of everybody trying to buy up the slightly higher proof available bottles of bourbon that people were talking highly of, but it just didn't quite. I don't think it quite made it to the public eye in the way that that other bottles did. Um, so in total, I gave it a 13.5. Yeah. Wait, hold on. 7, 10. Yeah. A 13.5. And I think that it is I think that it is a very enjoyable bottle of bourbon, especially at this price point. This is the David Nicholson Reserve Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, which is 100 proof.
Okay.
And is very very much overlooked in this market, I would say.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think I've ever noticed it. What say that name again for everybody at home so I can go get it.
it's the David Nicholson Reserve
Okay.
Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. I'm about to send you a picture of it.
Yeah, definitely do. Um, so you had a 13 and a half?
Yeah, you gave it a 14 point, maybe a 14 flat.
I think, yeah, I gave it a 14 flat.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So
I
this
think that's
is
about right.
Yeah, this is just under what I would say is a kind of an immediate recommend. I think that you should definitely pick up a bottle at the very least because there is a lot of good stuff going on here. I think that people are totally overlooking it. I think that it could be well recepted, well respected. I don't know. People will enjoy it and accept it in today's market. Um, it's just it is so under the radar
Yeah.
in
Where can you find this?
on your bottom shelf at Liquor Barn.
Really?
Seriously, yeah, that's where I saw it the other day.
No way.
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
Yeah,
Not kidding.
this is totally a bottle that I would overlook.
it's it's one that like I know that we have talked about it before. I don't think you and I have talked about it before, but Chad and Sarah brought it to my attention, and then I was like, well, I better get a bottle of it, and really was quite blown away by the overall quality of this product. So I think that's yeah, I don't really know who the distillery is that produces this. I don't know who bottles it. Um,
Yeah.
that being said, though, it is said that it's bottled by the David Nicholson Distillery Company in St. Louis.
Okay.
So
I don't know what
who's to
that
say?
means, but uh,
Exactly,
and
exactly.
there's no, no specific year or anything like that.
Nope, nope.
I like. There's something about 100 proof Bourbons, man.
I think it's got it. I don't know what it is, but it's got it.
Yeah, it's got it. It has my number.
So you're definitely going and picking up a bottle this week then.
Oh yeah, I think I will. And you said it's $30?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely has a, Henry McKenna. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's there, but it definitely has a Henry McKenna-esque feel.
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
so I'm definitely more on, it's definitely not there, but it's good. It's a recommend for sure. I think
It is definitely close. It is
it's
definitely
not
close.
like you have to go get this right now, but it's definitely you should, if it's there, think about picking it up.
For sure. For sure. So that was our review for this episode. Curtis, we have a barrel rings
Very
for
cool.
this week. We
Yeah.
do indeed, and I am very excited for it. I'm just gonna play it for you,
Okay.
and we'll listen along together. I would say.
Gotcha.
Hey guys, it's Papa Ritter here. It's Saturday. I'm calling a day before you're recording. I hope everybody is surviving. Out and about running just one quick errand because Tom and Sarah need wine. But I wanted to call and say hello. You all are doing a great job on with the circumstances that are thrown at you. I hope Curtis is connected this week. I was calling about Makers 101, which I like. I don't mind that this is from last week's show. I don't mind that they're doing the limited release. And if they do another limited release, I don't care. I'm not a Makers regular fan, but I like what they're doing, and I think they needed to put some more limited releases out there. So that's my comment on last week's show. I have a tips and bits for you. Music-wise, of course, the new Pearl Jam album, Gigaton, it's fantastic. It takes a couple of listenings to really get it. Fish has a new album out. I think it's digital only, and it's pretty good. It's very good. And the last one is underwear. Ex Officio is the name of the company. They have the best underwear I have ever had on my body. It is it's expensive, but I'm telling you, man, it's worth it. Love to all. I hope you're doing well, staying safe and healthy, and washing your hands and doing what we're supposed to be doing, social distancing. But cheers to all. I hope to be on the show soon. Love y'all. Bye-bye.
That's awesome.
So that was Papa Ritter for anybody who wasn't following along or wasn't able to follow along, but that was nice to get the Papa Ritter barrel rings in. Kurt, I don't know if you went through the notes for last week, but Maker's Mark is releasing a limited version of the Maker's 101.
Okay.
And Swan and I had a whole conversation about whether or not they should even be doing that, because it's something that people, were either expecting or it could have been out there in the public already. But I don't mind it. I don't mind that I'm not having to travel so far to Laredo, Kentucky to pick up a bottle. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, so you were saying that they were doing what exactly again?
They're putting out the Maker's Mark 101, which was originally a duty-free only bottle.
Yeah.
And then went to duty-free and gift shop. but then is now apparently being moved to a limited release on top of both of those things.
Yes, I totally. I think that having an expansion of a product with Maker's Mark is fantastic. I mean, I think that for a long time I've really wanted something that is not just Makers or Makers 46 or the Private Select. I think the
Right.
expansion of having a wide, not a wide release, but like a sought after that you can get, and it's available. Makers 101. I think it's a good product to add to a line. Whether they decide to do that or not, I think it's great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still excited for it. I don't know what it's going to be like in terms of distribution, but I am excited one way or another. And then he also provided a couple of tips and bits for us. One was the new Pearl Jam album, which I've not listened to all the way through, but apparently it's very good. So
Yeah, I haven't either.
I'm excited to, at the very least, give it a spin. And the other one, I wasn't entirely sure what it was called, but it's an underwear company.
Yeah, what?
We're gonna have to follow up with Papa Ritter on that one and see what exactly it was that he was saying. So maybe I'll give him a call and splice it in here.
Yeah, whatever it was the best thing that he's ever put on his body.
We'll have to see what he actually was talking about.
Yeah,
with that one. But anyway, well, I thank you.
Tips and bits, right?
Well, we are not quite to tips and bits, actually.
True. Okay.
Surprisingly, we have some questions from our Facebook group, which you can join at facebook.com, and you just search for "This Is My Bourbon Group," and you answer a couple of security questions, and then you can be a part of our little community. Our first and second question come from Ian McMaster, and Ian asks, "What's going to be your special pours today?" And for everybody listening, we are recording this on Easter Sunday. So, Kurt, do you have any special pours that you're gonna pour today?
Special pour, whatever I got.
There you go. That's a very Papa Ritter answer, by the way.
Is it really? That's awesome.
Yeah, that sounds like something my dad would say.
Gotcha. Well,
sure.
it's true. It's whatever I got. Which I do have some things that I could pull out, but I think I'm more on the approach of let's save for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, but at the same time, like I looked over at my cabinet and I was like, I'm gonna pull a few special bottles out. So I've got an old Russell's pick that I haven't had in a while, and a pre-fire Heaven Hill too.
Okay,
so
that Heaven Hill I'm sure will be fantastic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Ian follows up that question with, what's going to be the first thing you do when you're off quarantine? Well, I'm going to give everybody a really big hug because I miss I miss human to human contact.
Yeah,
in a bad way.
Mine will definitely be to go see family and
yes,
just in general be able to hug whoever I am closest to.
I'm just a hugger, man. Like,
yeah, I'm just a hugger, dude.
I'm just a hugger. I need to hug somebody.
Yeah.
It is so strange.
And going back to the monotony of just like everyday life, I think this has been a good way of, don't take everything for granted. Like,
exactly.
Think of all that kind of stuff. So
yeah. I'm just looking forward to being able to spend time with people again. Really, I mean that's my big thing right now.
Yeah.
So, Anthony Ratcliffe asks, "What's the best habit that y'all have developed during this quarantine period? Conversely, what's the worst habit you've developed?"
I'll let you go.
Well, I would honestly say that the best habit that I've developed is, and it sounds kind of contradictory, but I don't spend a lot of time worrying about how I look anymore. Like I just kind of am. I'm just kind of present. I'm not trying to put on for anybody. I'm not trying to, dress the best or whatever. I'm just enjoying getting to, uh, just wear sweatpants all the time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the worst habit that I might have accepted could very well be wearing sweatpants all the time. So, I mean, it's going to be hard once I have to get back to real life and wearing, jeans. But who's to say?
Who's to say? Who knows? My best habit that I have formed is, or just best thing that has happened, is that I have been able to stay within the moment.
Yes.
I think
Absolutely.
just being able to stay within the moment, to be able to think, to be able to keep an open mind with whatever I'm going through, or whatever I was talking about, or whoever I'm with at that point in time. I think it's been a great thing for me to be able to just be within the moment and not think of what am I doing in the next 20 minutes? What am I doing an hour from now? Who am I going to see?
Right.
2 days from now, or whatever. I think it's helped with that quite a bit. On the opposite side, I would say I've probably had way too many potato chips and food that I should not have.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, I mean, I've been a little bit more liberal in the amount of whiskey that I've been drinking. So.
Yeah. And also, and this isn't a bad thing, this has honestly been great for me, is being able to catch up on all the shows and books and
yes,
music I wanted to get into. That has been great.
Yes.
Like,
absolutely.
I feel so cultured right now. in a time that there's not a ton of culture right now. I've been about it.
So this next question is from Barry Brenniger. He says, I've got a question. Well, do you know, Barry? He said, do you know of any new distilleries that are coming to market this year? As a matter of fact, I do. But I'm going to be very honest with you, Barry. Y'all haven't disclosed to me what the name of your what your distillery is just yet. But it's the folks through Bluegrass Catering. They are apparently going to be opening up a distillery here in Lexington, and I am super excited to find out more about that. They are supposed to be sending me a sample of their 12-year-old bourbon, which I'm really really excited for. So we're going to have them on the show here soon. It's Barry and his business partner Jill. So I look forward to getting a chat with them sometime in the near future. This next question is from Cole Boozer. He said, would you like the tasting notes for that Heaven Hill 4-grain blend? I know it's pretty long and detailed. It may not be interesting to most people. Actually, I would very much be interested in your notes for that Heaven Hill 4-grain blend. I think if I remember correctly, it was a blend between the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof A120 and the Larceny Barrel Proof A120. So I would just be curious what you came up with there, Cole. So that should be interesting. Eric Smith asks, what is the best Easter candy and bourbon pairing?
Best Easter candy and bourbon pairing.
It's hard not to try to factor in the Reese's eggs.
Yeah, because there's just like a lot of nuttiness and peanut butter.
Right.
It is hard. If I'm going away from that, though, I'd venture to say a little Peep.
But Peeps in what, though?
Well, I didn't go that far. I don't know.
Maybe like peeps in a Booker's or
Peeps in a
peeps in
Booker
a
to balance out some of the uh, high proof
yeah,
and darker
yeah,
notes. Yeah,
yeah,
I think
for sure.
I think a peep with any sort of bourbon that has more of a barrel influence, significant barrel influence.
Dustin asked, "What is the best bourbon / whiskey pairing with Easter meal? Ham paired with question, corn casserole with question mark, etc." Um, I am really a sucker for anything that has been grilled and whiskey. I mean, I feel like those two just go so well together. Um, and I love lamb at Easter time, so maybe I'll go like this lamb chop that I've got over here, and maybe a little bit of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof C918 if I'm feeling kind of froggy here in
Yeah,
a bit.
yeah, I get that. Yeah, I think anything traditional bourbon for an Easter is good. It balances
Yeah,
out the sweetness with the saltiness of the ham.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Matt Bailey asks, "Have you ever brought a flask or stashed a bottle in the car at Easter dinner? For health reasons, because the in-laws' health may be in jeopardy if you don't, if you didn't." Um, everybody in my family is pretty fine without me having to hide a flask in the car. So
Well, I'll answer this question because I have.
there you go.
Yeah, because I, on the other hand, have to at least be cognizant of that. For me, I have had anything from Elijah Craig to Henry McKenna to a Knob Creek single barrel out of the Easters that I've had away from home.
So this one is a little bit more in depth, but I figured that we should touch on it because it is relevant to what we've got going on in the community at the moment.
Okay.
Troy Mancusi, who is one of the guys over at Speakeasy, Wisconsin, asked, "It's a situation that I'm in the middle of right now. Rather, is it appropriate for stores and bourbon groups to promote a private pick that is released now, given the current pandemic?" I don't see a problem with it as long as there is some kind of call and hold a bottle for me system in place. What do you think, Kurt?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a problem with it as long as you're doing it in in a healthy manner and you're not like having
Mm-hmm.
hordes of people coming. I think it's good as long as you can reserve bottles and be able to account for everything. Then yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, even if you can release it to the quote unquote public, but still offer up, home delivery in some capacity for folks who are members of the private group or, whatever. I think that there is some precedent that could be set for people to still get excited over it if you are promoting it. But it's odd and it's difficult in this day and age.
Yeah, I think people are looking forward to something to.
That is very true.
Yeah, I think that people are looking for some just like escape time and
Just
things to
something.
look forward to, and I think that's something that is great to provide.
Yeah, I agree. Christian asks, everyone talks about the negative side of quarantine. What are your top 3 favorite things about quarantine? Ooh. I will say I have loved getting to go out on my back porch more often. And just, whether it's a sunrise or sunset and just enjoying and being kind of in the moment. I love my back porch.
Yeah,
I love spending that time out there.
yeah. One for me is the appreciate the little things.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure everyone kind of has that feel of it's the little things that count.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
yeah, I think that's
I
one
don't
of them. Two,
I
I
don't know if
mean,
I have a
Netflix.
go.
I mean, holy shit.
Yeah, well, that's fair. That is fair. I don't know if I have a top 3 though. I don't know if I can get that far into it. I mean, like I feel that I don't know. I've been fairly level-headed throughout most of it, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah, I think for me, one is probably uh, enjoying the weather because the weather has been pretty nice. Two,
mhm.
I would say uh, not being on my phone as much, not being connected. I think that's a
Yeah.
better word. Uh, not being connected as much, more being just in the moment type deal.
See, that's funny for me because like I have spent more time on my phone connecting with people.
Really?
And not necessarily like just being on Facebook all the time. And, I have been on Facebook a lot, probably more than I should be right now. Um, but I have enjoyed getting to kind of reconnect with people and spend some time checking up on folks who, um, I haven't talked with in a while. So I've
Yeah.
enjoyed that aspect of it. It's given me the opportunity and the reason to reach back out to friends.
Okay. Yeah, I get
So,
that.
Robert Beagle asks, "What is the Easter Bunny pouring? Rabbit Hole, Wilderness Trail, Old Forester, Four Roses?" Um, I don't know. I haven't yet met the Easter Bunny in person. I feel like next year we might cross paths. So, I'm gonna have to figure something else out. Special for the Easter Bunny for next year. Same for Santa Claus. Santa and I are gonna finally get to sit down and have a drink together. So I'm kind of excited about that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I also am. I very much appreciate the rabbit hole. I would like to try that as well.
Yes, for
I
sure.
mean, I've had it before, but on Easter,
Oh yeah, for
a
sure.
little bit of irony.
You know, we are very fortunate to have gotten to sit down with Cave from the Rabbit Hole Distillery. You
Yes.
and I have this, and it's always been really fun getting to chat with him. We need to work on bringing him back onto the show once everything lifts a
Yeah.
little bit.
He's an amazing guy.
He really is. He is super super sweet. This next question, though, Curtis, is directed just for you.
Oh boy.
Joseph Brazo asks, "What's the status of your wedding with large groups and all?"
Yeah. Good question, Joseph. It's all up in the air as far as what I know right now. Talk to me in about 2 weeks. We might have a better plan. As of right now, we are anticipating that we'll have to push back that wedding. We will still get married, but this is what we're super excited about. Is a year from now for our anniversary, we will have a big celebration ceremony reception.
Right. The fake wedding.
Yes, exactly. The fake wedding, as we are calling it. But we'll leave some of that for the patrons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got time. I don't know why I'm lumping myself in with you, but you've got time to figure that out.
Yes.
And let everybody know. This next one's really interesting. It's from Don Nishida. He said, "What Patreon level do we need to be to influence baby name choices?" He said, "Are you going with a bourbon themed name, like how some name their children after actors or characters, i.e., Walker and Texas Ranger,
i.e., Elijah or
Craig?"
Yeah, exactly.
He offered some suggestions. He said Little Brook, Rick, House, Ritter, Stave, Proof, Bung. Um, he said, all kidding aside, very happy to watch you and Lucy become parents. The journey isn't always smooth, but it's one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life. Cheers and happy Easter. Dawn, we will be working on restructuring the Patreon so that everybody has a say in what I name my child. So be on the lookout for that over the next couple of weeks.
AKA like $1,000 tier gets to
yeah,
pick.
exactly. You can, and that's just for us to consider your suggestion. That's not even for your suggestion to be really in the hat or anything. But
Yeah.
If you subscribe to the $1,000 Patreon tier and send us, your both of your pinky fingers, then maybe we'll talk about it.
I mean, what price point does that get to?
I need to make some phone calls before I can talk about it.
Yeah, I feel that.
And our last question, which is not a question, but is just a comment, is from Patrick Starkey, who is actually one of the listeners of the show, who is currently deployed all the way in the Middle East. So thank you for your service, Patrick. He said, no question this week. I just wanted to thank you all for making this podcast in the first place and commend you for keeping with it during this weird time. Thank you for giving us something to look forward to each week. I have nothing to say to that other than it is our pleasure. And I enjoy getting to still do this show every week. It means a lot that people are still listening. And I know that times are super, super weird, but we're still keeping this up as long as we possibly can, like we've always said. So thank you all, everybody who has continued to listen to the show and support us during this bizarre time. So,
yeah, I mean,
that's all for. Oh, go ahead, Kurt. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, thank you for your service, and thank you for, just listening to the show. And it really is our pleasure to we get to drink bourbon and talk about it, and just hopefully create some sort of moment that connects with every one of our listeners. So.
Well, we'll wrap up with a kind of quick fire round of tips and bits where we recommend things for you all to listen to or watch or check out during not even just these weird times, just kind of in general. So, Kurt, do you have any tips and or bits for people to check out this week?
Yeah, so for mine, I would say the newest episode of Westworld comes out on Sunday. So if you haven't watched that, watch that, because Westworld is a really great show. I've also been watching Ozarks, and I've just gotten to season 3, and I've been told that season 3 is one of the best. So rapid fire, I think those two. I've been watching a lot of shows.
Yeah.
Silicon Valley, which I've discussed, that's good too.
Yeah, so. we still need to get caught up on Silicon Valley.
Tiger King.
Oh yeah, the newest episode of Tiger King came out today.
Yes.
Ah, dang it! All right, now I have something to go watch later.
Sunday, which the episode has come out past that, but
yeah, but it's out for people who have watched Tiger King in general.
Yes. I watched it already. It's a good wrap up. It's not anything.
Okay.
It's not anything to write home about, but it's a good wrap up.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I look forward to checking it out at the very least. I have a couple of tips and bits this week as well. We started watching all of the James Bond movies from the beginning, which has been really kind of cool. We started from the very first Sean Connery movie and kind of moved on from there. Early James Bond movies, not the most entertaining, but they are quite they'll get you through. You feel like you're watching a James Bond movie at the very least. And I also started listening recently to a new podcast called Time to Die, where comedians will there's usually two, and they will write really horrible material for the other one, and they have to actually go up on stage and perform it in front of a live audience and just bomb horrifically. And it is so funny. It is so good. I can't recommend it enough. They're really only 2 episodes in, maybe 3 by the time this episode comes out. But very, very funny stuff. So that's it for this week, I believe, of this My Bourbon Podcast. Thank you all so much for listening, as you do every single week. Curtis, where can people find you on social media?
On Instagram, you can find me at KurtCon, and on Twitter, Kurt_Con15.
And if you would like to find me personally, I am at PureRaider1492 on all social media channels. The show itself is at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. You can send us an email to thisismybourbonshop@gmail.com if you have questions or comments about the show itself. We'll be happy to read them out during our question/mailbag segment for everybody. You can find all of our apparel and merchandise at bourbonshop.threadless.com. You can leave us a 5-star rating and review on the iTunes podcast app. You just scroll down in the main feed of the podcast itself and leave us a nice little review. We have not received a new review this week, but if you do review the show, we will read it out for you and let you guys know just how much. Never mind. And we'll read it out for you. And last but not least, you become a patron of the show at patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast for as little as $1 a month. You can support the show at $5 a month. You get bonus content like these bonus episodes that we release every month. You get the pregame chats, which we just recorded right before this episode. And it's really a fun time to go over to that community and hang out. I'm slightly freaking out, Curtis, by the way, because the sky has turned a very strange color outside of my house. So I'm trying
yellow?
to.
Yes.
Yeah, it got really yellow really quickly. So I'm trying to wrap up just in case we need to go to the go to a windowless room for any reason. But hopefully this isn't the last episode of This Is My Bourbon Podcast.
Bring a bottle of bourbon.
Yeah, we'll find out. My Elijah Craig Barrel Proof might be coming to the garage with me. We'll find out. But thank you all so much for listening. Thank you to everybody who is a Patreon supporter, of course. You guys really do help this show continue every week, every month. And that about does it for this week. We will see you all soon. I really, really hope the sky is getting oranger and oranger. But until next week, I'm Barry.
I'm Curtis.
And this is My Bourbon Podcast. Pray for us, y'all.